Welcome to another episode of the 100% podcast with me, your host, Harry Purdy. And today, I am delighted to welcome you to another show of the podcast and another episode which is just going to be a solo one. I think it's been really important for me to dive into the solo episodes again, get comfortable with speaking on my own as a podcaster and somebody that wants to dive into their own message a little bit more, but also sharing some value with you that I may not have shared before with you all on the podcast over recent weeks. So that's why we're back with me again today, and also the fact that we had a cancellation in the week. But don't worry, we are recording with a guest. The day after this is being recorded today, so I'm looking forward to bringing those episodes back to you with guests so we can have conversations. And actually, as I mentioned on the previous podcast episode, we are throwing things back a little bit with the next couple of guests who are coming on the show, as there's going to be a little bit of grassroots football chat. There's going to be a little bit of grassroots sports in general coming on the podcast. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a nice touch back to the past in the grassroots guy, but also with a little bit of a twist of mindset, lessons learned, life lessons, and all of those amazing things that we can get by going on our own individual journeys. Today, though, I want to talk to you about the power of doing hard things and why pushing your limits and why doing hard things is actually, or can be, the key to your growth, and has definitely played a massive part in me and the growth that I've had over the last, since 2019 when I started my journey in its very, very early stages. So that's what we're talking about. Why set goals? Why do hard things? Why push your boundaries to limits that they may never have been to before? And there is obviously some psychology behind why hard challenges are put in place for people, why people put hard challenges in for themselves, and why people crave difficulty. And obviously they are really individual to everyone. But there's no hard thing that you've ever been through that you've not found the lesson or not learnt something from at the end of it. And obviously there are the odd occasions, but if we were to talk really loosely about challenge in your life that may bring up some triggers or may bring up some trigger points for you that of course you challenge in the past. But when you look back at them, finding those lessons and learning from them has been really beneficial. But when it comes to physical challenge and pushing yourself to your limits mentally and physically, I don't think there's a situation that you can get yourself into or sign up to a challenge which will actually lead you to regretting it in a future version of yourself, right? I think when it comes to hard challenges for me personally, it was always the element of I knew that I'd enjoyed running during my journey and I knew that I relied on that a little bit more, but how could I make it funner? How could I make it not just about trying to lose weight? It was about conquering different distances. And as I've conquered different distances over the last couple of years, when I've taken I'm going to say this really loosely, but when I've taken my running a little bit more seriously, then it comes to thinking about how I can increase my pace and try and get PBs in a genuinely decent routine of running and not trying to smash myself every time we go out, which obviously we've spoken about on the podcast previously. But actually doing hard things and signing myself up to those challenges that have pushed me right out of my comfort zone have been one of my biggest surprising unlocks, I guess, that I found in my journey of self-development, growth, and being a better version of myself and discovering my own 100%. But obviously, as I've said previously, people will do it for different rings. But for me, the lessons that I've learned, and actually talking about the personal stories that I've learned when I've signed up for these hard challenges, have been incredible, really. When I look at going back from doing my first ever half marathon, and then the next big challenge that I signed myself up for was to raise money for charity with the 54k ultra marathon over the Jurassic Coast, was definitely kind of how much can I push this cling film ceiling? The cling film ceiling being a ceiling that I've kind of put in place, but actually does it really exist? Not until you test it, right? And then you can pop yourself through it. I did a really in-depth keynote on that at the 100% event. I don't want to go into that too much today. But when it comes to those moments, even through the training run that went badly, the first proper trail coastal training run that I did, I underfueled, didn't take the correct hydration equipment, and got myself in a bit of a pickle when it comes to hydration, and literally broke down. I was fucked at the end of it. But there was lessons there to be learned. So fundamentally, the personal story from that was, well, I learned how to do it better next time, right? And then it came to the actual challenge itself, and it gave me the lesson of, if I practice hard enough, or if I prepare well enough for something in my future, then I'll be able to achieve it. That was something that occurred at kilometer 27 of the ultra marathon, where it was the halfway point. I checked my watch and I was like, well, I'm feeling pretty good right now, and that's because of the training that I'd done previously to that event, which just shows the, I guess, the willingness of, if you're willing to put the practice in, if you're willing to put the effort in towards something, if you're willing to take action on something, then you're going to get the benefit and the rewards at the end of it. Not saying that the ultra marathon was easy, by the way, and I'm not saying that the one in a couple weeks time, in a month's time is going to be easy, neither. But if I do practice for them, if I do work hard enough for them, then I know that I can give myself the best chance to achieve those things when it comes forward. But one of the biggest things for me, actually, when it comes to personal stories, is the cramp that I've had to deal with in the runs, and in the London Marathon, and even in Bristol Half Marathon a couple of weeks ago, where actually my body did hit its limits with hydration or performance and started to seize up a little bit. And obviously you have a couple of choices there, right? You do get the thought process of, fuck me, this is really hard, this feels really shit, like, do I even want to carry on? But when you encounter that version of yourself which is telling you to stop, and you do counter it, that is where I've got the biggest lessons. And I do want to learn more about that side of me. And I even remember, like, runs that I did where I kind of encountered the negative thought pattern. But actually, when you are training towards something, again, which is the importance of setting these hard goals and getting yourself out of your comfort zone and pushing your limits, can be really beneficial, because you do meet versions of yourself that you do need to overcome and encounter, to then be a better version of yourself on the other side. So you deal with your worst versions of yourself during these events, and then at the end of them, you can come out a better person, a more resilient person, somebody who's actually knows how to deal with negative thoughts in a way that then transcends into a version of you that can deal with a negative thought in any kind of situation in life. And you know that you've dealt with those thoughts, but maybe in a different way before, from a hard challenge that you've done, so you don't just respond to them, and you're like, and you instantly respond to them. The other thing as well, just thinking out loud a little bit, is the amount of training I've done, the amount of time that I've spent on my own. I guess it's made me more self-aware. I do know how my brain works on quite a good level now, and there's still lessons to be learned, and that is something that I'll always reiterate on this podcast, and when I do my coaching, and when I speak on YouTube and whatever, and when I make videos, is that this journey will never stop. I'd like to think that when I'm in my 90s, I still want to learn something about the world, if I've not cracked pure oneness or pure spirituality by that point, which sounds a bit hippy dippy, but actually when it comes down to self-awareness and controlling your emotions, those are the kind of things that you want to be looking for. And even being physically able to still walk a 10k when I'm 90 would be sick. And let's hope for these things. So when it comes to those personal stories, they've shaped me because they've allowed me to work with a version of myself that I want to improve, right? The negative version of myself. And it's always going to be there, no matter what point of your life, whether it be during a tough challenge, a tough circumstance, a tough relationship, a tough conversation, you are going to want to jump out. But actually, when it comes to it, breaking through those tough times, those times where you've needed to be resilient, will take you out the other side as a more level and well-rounded individual, for sure. When it comes to another point as well, there's always that, like, which door or which option is easier. And I actually did a post around this today in regards to the fact that I've come to realize during this journey that I now really don't like the easy option most of the time, right? And obviously I'm human, I'm always going to look at what the easy option is, but it is a coming of age and a realization for me to realize that if I stay comfortable, that probably means that I'm not going to grow. It's not going to allow me to like stay in a box. It is going to keep me in a box essentially. Whereas if I choose the hard option, then I'm going to get that growth. I'm going to come out of it the other side. And I think one of those things that if I go into a little bit of 100% philosophy and a little bit of like the old version of me, somebody that was always choosing the easy option, whether it be like choosing to game for too long or choosing too much Netflix or choosing to kind of overshadow my emotions by drinking beer or maybe even like I don't know, being scared of chatting to women because I didn't have confidence and using the easy option of like getting my end away with like looking online and all of those kind of things. Sound a bit embarrassing, but it's just the truth, right? Especially the fellas that are listening, they'll know that feeling. Even if you're like one of the hunks, you know, or you will have had issues with some form of confidence with women in your life. It's just one of those things again that you have to kind of overcome. And same for women towards men. Confidence can be a big thing when it comes to meeting new people, getting out of your comfort zone and all of those kind of things. But when I've been that version of myself, going back to the main point of what I'm trying to make, and I have chose the easy option, it's led to a version of me that has been like hopeless, lost, anxious, depressed. And I've realized that actually when you are in a growth favored environment and putting yourself in an area where you can grow, those are the situations and those are the areas and those are the life circumstances which are going to get you to be able to get amazing results rather than just kind of, I hate using the word average because average is okay if you are okay with that, but everyone knows that they can do a little bit more than average, if not a little bit, like a lot more than average. And when you choose the harder option, you're always going to get better than average, which I think is really important. And it is something that I think is really dived, or when I've dived into the coaching philosophy recently of 100% coaching, what it is that I can offer to people, it is giving you the invitation to step outside of your comfort zone fully and actually getting yourself to choose a hard option, which is really, really fun and can be insanely important to how much you grow as an individual. The other reason as well is when it comes to the idea of signing up to an incredibly hard physical challenge that you may not have given yourself the credit to think you can do before, when you do sign up for it, you almost take a little bit of the choice element out of the way. And especially if you give some accountability, so you share online the fact that you've signed up to your first ever 10K, half marathon, ultra marathon, Tough Mudder, like I don't even know whatever other options, High Rocks event, CrossFit event, whatever it may be, like swimming event, triathlon. There's so many options that you can take, but it may even be that you have not played football for 5 years and you want to get back into it, or it may be that you used to go to the gym and you re-sign up to it. Actually signing up to the thing and telling people was really, really important because it brings accountability. I was chatting to somebody in the gym today actually about they took some time without a coach and now they're back with a coach. And the main reason that they did that was because of accountability. Accountability can be massive for certain individuals, especially if you I do like gratification, of course I do. So when I've fucking smashed a good week with my coursework or with my physical, my PT, or Aaron, like my coach, or Paul, who's obviously helped me with my mindset, and they've seen that I've done some good shit, and you get a well done. That's really cool, right? Not because of the fact, and obviously this is really important, right? You don't want it to be a cheesy well done that they actually don't care about. You want it to be something that they've looked at your challenge, they looked at what you're trying to overcome, and they've seen that you've had success. And then you get that, like, shit, yeah, no, do you know what? That was a good week. And actually reflecting on it as well can be really good. But having that fear, going back to, again, the original point, having that fear of what's in front of you and having a limiting belief about what you can achieve means that you have a fear and a limiting belief that can be overcome. And you may just need to break through that fear to then break through that resistance. So break through the fear, break through the resistance to get the results that you need. And sometimes when it comes to that fear and resistance, you just need somebody to put an arm around you and say, do you know what? You're not alone on this challenge. You have got this. And this is what I did at the 100% event, right? I got everybody to write down what their goal was in the next 6 months, 3 months. I can't remember exactly what I said. And I gave them the opportunity to get some accountability from me, because with that, it means that somebody else is aware. And if you're not aware, if you've not made anybody aware of the goal that you're trying to achieve, you keep it inside yourself, and that limiting belief can then become an identity. Whereas if you allow that limiting belief to be aired, you have a chat with somebody about it, you're like, yeah, do you know what? If I trained for that, if I worked hard enough for that thing, then I could get it. And sometimes even limiting beliefs with my business can still come into play, with the podcast can still come into play. And that may have reflected a little bit in the fact why I took a little bit of time out, because I was like, how can I relentlessly keep this week by week by week by week thing on? And at the end of the day, if I plan well enough and if I'm passionate about it, if I'm doing content that I care about, then of course that can happen, right? So here we are. We're breaking through that limiting belief. We're back to a hat trick now. We're 3 weeks in a row we're not missing, and this is going to be the trend moving forward. And actually, like, part of me, when it comes to the YouTube and building up the content on there and using this podcast, it's an even bigger pull for me to do it, right? I know the content that I want to get. I know what I want to talk about. I know who I want to help. I know what my message is now. And that's really important. So going back to the original point, using accountability to break through that fear and resistance that might be in front of you, not only will help you do that, break through that fear using that accountability, but not only by breaking through that fear and resistance with your accountability, after you've broken through that by signing up to the thing with accountability, you then will take action towards the task. And when you take action towards the task, you will then feel fucking amazing when you've completed it at the other end. And you know what? Even if you don't complete the task at the end of it, like let's just say you've signed up to a run and you get injured halfway around, like you've done all you can to do it. And then you've got another opportunity to go and beat yourself again, which I think is really important. And as well as that, I think, again, a little bit of a caveat away from the points that I've got for today's podcast is that at the end of the day, the only person that you need to beat and you need to worry about and you want to bet, if you're listening to this podcast, it probably means that you're self-growth orientated. And the only person that you need to care about when it comes to being self-growth orientated, it's in the title, right? Is, am I going to be a better version of myself than I was yesterday? Am I going to be a better version of myself than I was last week? Has my year in comparison to 2024 up to the 29th of May been as good? Or do I need to pull my finger out a little bit and set some more intense and exciting goals and create a more exciting vision of my future self? Just things to think about here. When it comes to why do we sign up for tough goals, tough challenges, when it comes to the actual achievement at the end of it, I mean, I do sit here every week with these medals behind me because, do you know what? I don't even care. If you do, I mean, maybe you're not watching this episode and you listen, but behind me at my desk, I have a medal hanger, essentially, which says, your mind is your strongest muscle. And obviously, when it comes to these resilience events that I've done, maybe not the 10K. Do you know what? I'm going to include the 10Ks in there because if you run hard enough on a 10K, they become fucking hard at the end. But when it comes to my first ever half marathon, when it comes to the Bristol half marathon, when it comes to the London marathon, when I really, really seized up at the end of it, when it comes to the ultra, I've actually been working physical and mind strength, right? The strength and resilience in my muscles to be able to carry on, and then the will and the resilience in my mind to then carry on. But when you have actually achieved them, of course it feels insane. And I think when these goals, that I think James Smith talks about it in quite a nice way when it comes to YouTube and and followers and followings. He said something around no feeling ever got better, but it was still addictive. So what he was saying there was when he passed 10,000 followers, the feeling was the same as when he hit 10 million followers or 1 million followers, right? It was the same dopamine hit, the same achievement feeling, but that achievement feeling was still as addictive. Didn't matter what level it was. And obviously we're talking levels here. I'm not going to go out and run a world record London marathon or world record marathon. I'm going to be probably 99% right in saying that I don't have the biological setup to go and do that. And also I want to stay strong. I want to have a physique that is muscular, right? And you don't see many world record marathon athletes with that much of a muscular physique. In fact, not at all. They are stick thin. Everyone knows that. But when it comes to that achievement, having that achievement and knowing that you've done something that has lit you up, number one, has been difficult, but you have then gone on to achieve, is really fucking cool. I don't care what anyone says, it really is. And not only that, from a personal perspective, you may then inspire other people to go on and do that. And again, when I look at the 100% event and having people send me through what it is that they want to go on and achieve in the next 3 months, 90 days, 100 days, having them give me that accountability and having them wanting to chase that achievement, dopamine achievement, essentially, is really fucking cool. And actually, I've inspired people to do that. And that was a hard thing for me to do, right? I haven't really spoken about the 100% on the podcast, but real fucking insecurity around whether I had the right to go and put this event on, whether anybody would take my points seriously. But actually, when they did, and when they were really in tune with my story and what I had to offer, you kind of think, like, why were all these negative thoughts there? Because I've got proof in the pudding now, but they're always going to be there no matter what, because we as human beings value safety, but safety and comfort do not allow us to grow. And I think there's that saying, I'm going to probably butcher it, but it's about ships being in harbors, but they're not supposed to be in harbors. They're supposed to sail the ocean, right? And sometimes that can be similar with humans. If you're in the harbor, you're safe, but that's not where you're built to be. Yeah, I think I've kind of nailed the point of that. But it's really, 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 really relevant to what I'm trying to say when it comes to what is the power, what is the importance of getting out of your comfort zone and chasing down something that you know is difficult. I don't want to do this, but that thing is just going to hold you back forever. So let's fuck butt off and go and smash this goal. Okay, the next little thing is, and the final thing of today's podcast is around mindset shifts, right? And I think it's all going to kind of link back into each other around lessons from my tough experiences, comfort versus growth, mental roadblocks and all of those kind of things, embracing hard things, getting that dopamine hit at the end, but then the mindset shift that you get at the end of it. When you achieve hard things physically, you will achieve some form of growth with your mindset as well as your physical self as well. And when that happens, when hard things happen to you in life, I believe that has made me more resilient moving forward, because I have put myself outside of my comfort zone physically. I've trained my mind with that. And now when things go to shit, I don't respond in a way that maybe my old self would have. I don't react in a childish way. I'm childlike and I'll want to solve it and I'll want to be inquisitive with it, but I'm not childish. I don't let my chimp brain win and take over that battle. So it's a mindset shift around trying to find some perspective. For example, if I go into running, having cramp doesn't mean, like, having cramp to most people will fuck them up and probably put them off. Having cramp to me just means that the rest of the race is going to be slower, but I can still do it anyway. Right? That is a mindset shift that I've learnt. That is something that I've overcome from all of the challenging experiences that I've had during my challenging events. And that's something that has translated and translated into myself as a human being going through life just like you are. So this isn't a call to action as such, but it is a dive into why me and others who value self-growth and self-development go out of their way to put themselves out of their comfort zone, take on hard things. And although it's not a call to action and it's not me nagging you to go out and do it, it may ask you the question as to why you're not, and it also may get you to just sign up to that thing today. So if this podcast has helped you with that, I genuinely would love to know. What is your biggest takeaway from today's show? What have you learned? What have you learned about me? What have you realized is similar between maybe our journeys with hard things in inverted commas? And what are you excited to go out and experience? Because I really would love to know. This has been another episode of the 100% podcast with me, your host, Harry Purdy. This has been about pushing your limits, making you do hard things, and why it's the key to growth. And I've really enjoyed talking about it, actually. If you have enjoyed today's show, please like, subscribe on YouTube if you're watching higher. This is you see it every week now. Like and subscribe on YouTube. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure to leave a review and a 5-star. Be sure to write a review and leave a 5-star rating and subscribe on Spotify. You know the drill. I'll see you here for an episode every Friday. Take care.